It's Hornby Magazine's Great Electric Train Show 2023. And here are the layouts. It wouldn't be the Hornby Magazine Great Electric Train Show without a few of their layouts to come along to the exhibition. This is one of two that were brought along for the weekend. Knapford TMD, an 00 gauge layout set in the 1980s in the eastern region. It's an 11-foot by 2-foot diesel depot in 00 gauge. The layout is centred around a 4-row diesel depot which has been built with brand new laser cut kits from PJM Models. And they're available exclusively through the Key Model World shop. I have no affiliation with this. The multi-era layout can be stocked with different collections. Control is via DCC using a Gauge Master Prodigy, while all the yard lights and building lights are fully operational too. Here we see a Class 08 shunter moving F1 out of the depot. The other layout on display was Hornby Magazine's latest project, Twelvemill Bridge, which is a TT120 layout. On display was some of Hornby's newer products that are upcoming, such as the HST and Class 50. This brand new layout uses the growing range of TT120 products from Hornby, Pico, West Hill Wagon Works and MS Models, as well as DCC Concept electrical components. The layout measures 10 foot by 6 foot and features a double track main line, as well as a station, goods yard, viaduct, engine shed and tunnel.
The next one to go home, you've got to wait. I told you we should have got that. Then you would have waited.
And so we move on to the layouts that have come to the exhibition. First off being Hills of the North, Spirit of Shap, in 00 gauge. It's a 1930s to 1960s period on the Midland region, and it's operated by Graham Nicholas and his friends. The layout takes 3 places on the climb of Shap Bank and blends them into one continuous scenic presentation, some 35 feet long. Sounds impressive. There's a slightly bigger layout here this weekend. In the uphill direction, trains enter the scene at the right-hand end under the Green Home Road Bridge. This then transforms into the classic location as the railway runs along an embankment, crossing the road to the Shap Wells Hotel. The majority of the viewing section is given over to this scene, allowing sizable length of trains to be positioned in the landscape. As the trains enter Shap Wells cutting, this becomes deeper on the approach to Shap Summit itself. Passing beneath the distinctive lattice footbridge, it takes a public right-of-way high over the railway. Emerging from the cutting, trains pass the sidings and signal box at the Shap Summit before disappearing off scene again. Next is what I was looking forward to seeing, which is Gordon's Lane. It's a 00 gauge layout set between 2010 and 2022 in the southern region, and is run by Greg Marshall and his friends. I follow Gordon's Lane on Instagram, so getting to see it in the flesh was quite a pleasure. It's a fictional location somewhere on the Wessex Main Line, modelling the current railway scene. It models the third rail electric main line as well as multi-purpose vehicle maintenance depot alongside the running lines. The layout is DCC controlled with full colour light signalling. The Wessex Main Line has a large assortment of available rolling stock that could be operated on the layout. Many models are available from the usual modelling companies, including Bachmann, Hornby, Davon, Purescale and Hellion. The current fleet for Gordon's Lane, which is always expanding, includes multiple units from classes 158, 159, 170, 220, 221, 450 and 800. While there are also a number of Network Rail MPV units and other on-track line machines. Locomotives available to the roster include classes 37, 50, 59, 60, 66, 70 and the bonus loco 73, in a variety of colour schemes reflecting the bright and colourful face of the modern day railway. As we watch over the layout, an MPV arrives at the depot for some maintenance, whilst in the opposite direction, an express passenger service passes by. We now move to the East Kent Railway System, the Staple and Ash, an 00 gauge layout set between the 1930s to the 1960s by Noel Young and operated with himself and his friends. It's opened in 1916 as part of the East Kent Railway. Staple and Ash Station was located between two villages it served, and alongside Shepherdswell, the station was said to be the busiest on the East Kent Railway. The EKR system was closed to passengers by BR in 1948, closing to all traffic north of Ethel in 1951. There is no longer any trace of Staple Station. The site is currently being used as a small farm. Built in 4 sections, this 00 gauge layout depicts the station and railway during its heyday, sometime in the mid-1930s. To allow for a more interesting operation, it's been assumed that the planned extension to Canterbury and the connection to Chiswick to Colliery have been completed, whilst running a typical mix of light railway stock. Unfortunately, Jez, who built the layout, recently passed away, so the layout is now being exhibited in his memory. Next, a more unusual view for a layout, and this is Tamcester, an N-gauge. It's operated by Ben Sarich and his friends, and they very kindly invited me and the boy round the back to have a look at the layout from the other side. Better than that, they even let the boy have a go at operating the trains, and he was very pleased, even if he did have a wrong routing.
Hold the controller and just turn the dial to about just under halfway.
There you go.
Tamcester is a large town somewhere between London and Birmingham, served on a loop off the West Coast Main Line. This N-gauge layout is set in the sectorisation years of British Rail, anywhere between the mid-1980s and the early 1990s. AC electric locomotives are very much the attraction of choice, with intercity, Network South East, regional railways, parcels, mail and rail freight all serving or passing through Tamcester. A large mix of trains can be seen in action and in a wide variety of liveries. The 4-platform station is rarely unoccupied, and with the goods loop and fuel sidings, a wide variety of different moves are possible in a relatively confined space. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Ben and the team for inviting us around the back and making my boys' day. Hopefully I'll see you again in the future. Next we move on to the fabulous layout, which is Burntisland 1883. It's a P4 layout, set in 1883, surprisingly, in the Scottish region. The operating team is the East of Scotland 4mm group. Before the opening of the Forth Bridge in 1890, Burntisland was the southern terminus of railways in Fife. All goods and passengers heading south had to transfer to ships to cross the Firth of Forth. Burntisland 1883 shows the station and dock facilities in 1883, with passengers transferring to paddle steamer, goods rolling stock shunted and transferred to ships. The dock at Burntisland is near the Fife coalfields and had coal hoists to lift an entire wagon and empty it into the hold of a freighter. The exhibitors show a working example of one of the 4 hoists. Typically, coal left Burntisland for Scandinavia, and timber for pit props was imported on the same ships. Burntisland and Edinburgh had terminals for the world's first roll-on, roll-off ferry, which you just saw in the previous shot. Passenger services from Burntisland head north-east. The locomotive fleet includes number 224, known as the Diver, which fell from the Tay Bridge, was recovered and rebuilt. The exhibitors also show local stopping passenger services, with passenger operations following the period timetable. Burntisland had an extensive locomotive and wagon works. The model includes the roundhouse engine shed, with views inside being able to be seen with a little camera and TV screen. You may have noticed it in the first shot.
Why are the people in that?
We now go to the western region and Ranelagh Bridge in Owo gauge, set between 1970 and 1976. The operating team is Malcolm Bentley and friends. Ranelagh Bridge Yard was a locomotive servicing and stabling point located about 3¼ mile west of London Paddington Station and directly opposite Royal Oak London Transport Station. Its principal purpose was to service locomotives that had short turnaround times between arriving at Paddington on locomotive haul passenger and parcel trains and subsequent departures from Paddington. The yard was remodelled in 1964 to facilitate diesel refuelling and inspection. Such facilities remained in operation until the late 1970s, early 1980s, when, following the full implementation of the HST operation, the need for the yard was greatly reduced. The yard was closed and eventually converted into a car park. The compact nature of the yard, being hemmed in by house backs of Gloucester Terrace and bookend at both ends by bowstring girded road bridges, makes it an ideal candidate to model the diesel locomotive era in OO gauge. Although some compromises have been made to keep within space constraints, the operational effectiveness of the yard is maintained by locomotives entering and exiting the yard via the storage yard, which is marked by representation of the west end of the former parcels platform 1A. All buildings are scratch-built using card and embossed plastic card materials. The model exhibited depicts the yard operation during the 1970 to 1976 period. Now we move to Thorne Yard in OO gauge, which is set between the 1980s to 1990s on the southern region. The operating team is Simon Howard and the CBM Diesel Group. Thorne Yard is set in the 1980s somewhere in the Midlands or central Scotland, depending on the stock that is used. The layout purports to show a small but busy departmental yard at the end of a spur from the main line that also acts as a run-round facility for the local cement works. The layout construction follows the regarded norm with plywood, softwood used in basements. Track work is hand-built with C&L products. DCC control is via NCE power cabs. The key purpose of the layout is to display an ever-growing, improving and developing mountain of stock. All stock on the layout is, or should be, correct for the appropriate year, with photographs and websites used for reference. The locomotives are all sound chipped with various sound files, as well as being detailed and weathered. A timetable has been devised for the layout and is designed to utilise each locomotive a maximum of twice, and if operated efficiently, there are around 60 moves which will last the whole day. The main reason the layout was built was to exhibit it and talk to people about modelling railways, and to answer any questions people may have. As we look over the yard, we can see a Class 20 shunting wagons, whilst a Class 31 runs round its train. We now come to Wardwood in the low gauge, set between 1968 and 1971 on the eastern. It's operated by Ian Woodward and friends. Wardwood is a fictitious market town set in the Old West Riding of Yorkshire between Barnsley and Wakefield. Steam has finished and British Rail is in the process of changing its corporate livery from green diesels and maroon coaching stock to the new blue and grey. You will see both the old and new liveries on the locomotives and rolling stock on this gauge layout. Wardwood is still a busy station, 3 terminus platforms and 1 through platform. The service is provided to London, with through carriages joining with the main London train at Wakefield. It has local services to towns across Yorkshire and via the Calder Valley route to Manchester in the northwest. It still boasts healthy parcels traffic. Locomotive changes take place in the station area with light engine movements, as can be seen here, to and from the station to the depot situated at the scene. Freight trains can be seen transitioning through the station, heading for the marshing yards at Healy Mills and Wath. The local warehouse still receives rail traffic, with the loading bay recently upgraded with a covered shed. A wide variety of diesel multiple units that would have been seen in this area can be seen operating the services. We head back to Scotland, Tulloch Bridge in the OO gauge, which is set between 2004 and 2012. It's operated by Martin Stewart and Friends. Tulloch Bridge is set on the picturesque West Highland Line in Scotland, a few stations south of Fort William. The station itself serves a very small local population, but is also a gateway for tourists and hikers. Amongst the frequent passenger carrying multiple units, visitors can also view several freight workings including timber, alumina, oil and engineer trains. The famous Caledonian Sleeper makes a stop heading both north and south and gives travellers the opportunity to travel to the central belt of Scotland or further afield to London.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah. They're lovely, so we'll track them. You better go. Yeah, nice talking to you. Thank you. Cheers.
Next is Rosebury Goods in OO gauge, set in the 1980s on the Midland region. It's by O'Neill Woodbine and Sue Farmer. Rosebury Goods is a fictional freight yard inspired by the railways of Wednesbury, which is the owner's old hometown in the Black Country area of the West Midlands, and the layout is built in OO gauge. It features many local landmarks, including the painted shaft steelworks and Ocker Hill Power Station, plus the distinctive 2 churches of St Bart's and St Mary's on Church Hill. The layout portrays operations during the 1985 to 1987 time period, when the rail freight grey livery was starting to appear alongside the previous BR blue and large logo schemes. The owners have tried to give the impression of a place that hasn't seen any investment for a number of years and is very downhill in the style of the layout. Many classes of locomotives can and do appear, ranging from Class 08s up to the newer Class 5060s and 58s. But the majority are locally based Bescott depot engines. We go back to Scotland for Kinlochewe, which is an OO gauge layout set between the 1970s to the 1980s, operated by Norwood. This layout depicts Kinlochewe had the Skye and Dingwall Railway proposed branch line ever reached the town. The period depicted is the late 1970s to the 1980s, and it is modelled in OO gauge. The inspiration for the layout comes from the owner's youth and 3 Scottish weekly rover tickets that they managed during the period depicted. Traction is mostly classes 24-1, 26 and 37, and some licence is used to depict speed-link traffic. The terminus station depicts similar run-round procedures as employed at Kinlochewe, with the arriving locomotive propelling its train to a point where, after uncoupling, it is able to run round it. On occasions, a parcel van is detached before being propelled into the bay platform with the Royal Mail staff awaiting it. The line has the same operating procedures as the Far North line at Georgeman's Junction, where an outstation locomotive attaches to a portion of the train. Kinlochewe fictionally assumes that this would have taken place at Ashington. Freight occasionally calls Kinlochewe, the train calling being an Inverness to Carl of Lockwood, working carrying general merchandise, oil tanks for fuel for the ferries, and cement for the oil construction facility at Storm Ferry. The town street is quite detailed, and yes, palm trees do grow on the west coast of Scotland due to the influence of the Gulf Stream. The former goods shed is now used as a garage. The station features a private platform accessed through ornamental gates. Its construction was a condition of sale of the land for the station site, the wealthy landowner requiring his own private platform. Kinlochewe will feature in a future issue of Hornby Magazine. Next is Dublingham, in OO gauge. The layout is set in the 1960s in the Midland region and is operated by Tony Harris and friends. Tony's inspiration has been the Reverend Peter Denny and Norman Eagles and their work in model railway operation. Tony's aim of this layout was to see if he could operate it according to the rulebook. The collection is Hornby 00, and he considers himself a Hornby 00 collector and modeller. The baseboard is an experiment of 30mm blue foam with 5.5mm plywood construction, the aim being to have a layout as lightweight as possible. Eco Code 100 set track and streamlined electrofilm turnites are employed to give maximum reliability. That's a big word for me to say there. I'm sure you noticed me struggle. The hand-built third rail was constructed using Pico individually chairs and Code 75 rails, glued using liquid poly. We move to Scarlinton, which is N-gauge, set between the 1970s to the 1980s on the eastern region, and its operating team is the Knoll Group. I had the privilege of seeing Scarlinton at the N-gauge show, so it was delightful to see it again. Set in the northeast, Scarlinton offers a busy multi-track mainline scene heading to a large through station with junctions and branch lines connecting to the main route. Construction started as a follow-up to Scarworth Junction, which featured in Hornby Magazine in 2010, though the time period was moved forward to model the BR Blue and sectorisation era. Construction of Scarlinton started in 2011 and made use of traditional methods for the baseboards as well as Pico Code 55 track, while analogue control was selected for the layout's operations. The extensive layout design includes bridges over the railways as well as the standout railway bridge at the centre. There's also Cliff Railway, town scene and industrial area. We take a chance to look over the detailed town scene before watching a Class 101 in Regional Railways livery depart the station. Next is St Paddy, an 00 gauge layout set in the 1980s to the 1990s on the Western region, operated by Brian Tamplin and friends. Work started on this layout in 1997, with its first exhibition attended at Broadstairs in 1999. Since then, the layout has been exhibited at numerous exhibitions in the southeast. The model is built by traditional methods and has a simple freight yard together with a recently opened distribution warehouse. The moderate passenger facilities attract custom from the local village of Penhowenwick, which also provides labour for the local industry of china clay, which is loaded nearby for export out of the distinctly Cornish area. The layout's name is purely fictitious and is not linked to either a famous racehorse or indeed a diesel locomotive. However, late family pets, border collies, Paddy and Sam put in an appearance in miniature, together with the latest family dog, Cooper. Rolling stock of the 1980s to the late 1990s period is mainly ready to run, with detailed and modified items, together with various kits. The layout may be operated on DC, however, it is currently DCC controlled. Next, we managed to catch a freight passing through Polcombe Regis on the southern region. This N-gauge layout is set in the 1960s and is operated by Mark Pollard and friends. The layout is built on two 4-foot by 2-foot baseboards, which are displayed close to eye level in shows. And it's with this comment I'd like to sort of say something, because this layout and the one next to it were both at eye level, and while it was wonderful to watch, I can't stay there for long because I have to lift a 5-year-old and try and film and my arms hurt. So can you please provide some large stalls for children if you're going to have these at eye level? It's just a small request. It's a wonderful layout. I wish I could watch more of it, but my arms hurt. And so we move on to the other rather tall layout, which is 5 Elms in 00 gauge, set in the southern region. Must be something about southern region modellers that insist on having tall layouts. The operating team is Harry Pollard and his friends. This layout is set between 1964 and 1967, and 5 Elms MPD captures the end of British Railway steam in the south. Its 00 gauge layout is a fictitious engine shed on the southern region, and it is modelled in the late 1960s. Southern region diesels are becoming more numerous, but still steam remains. The scene is based somewhere in the suburbs of London, and the shed is able to stable freight, express and suburban locomotives from the western section of the southern region.
Harry built it during lockdown as a project while he was furloughed over there.
Next is James Street. I've seen this layout many times, but what I like about James Street is you can see it from many different angles, and this time I got to see it from the docks, and I haven't seen it from the docks angle before, so I've got to appreciate all that detail there. James Street has been built by Steve Wright. I don't think it's the radio DJ, could be, I didn't check. And it's been done over the last 23 years. It shows what can be done with space and time in N-gauge. The time period is 1955 to 1965 and is located somewhere in the Midlands, playing host to Midland and northeastern workings. It consists of a large terminus and dockyard, a mid-level 2-track main line and a high-level 4-track main line, with a single-track continuous branch line, which is also used to reverse trains. Coupled into these routes are large yards for freight and passenger stock. All of the stations are named after members of Steve's family. James Street, Linford, Junction Lower, Kendal and Iron. There are no hidden sidings, so all trains can be seen at all times. There are often 8 to 12 trains running at any one time, providing lots of entertainment for both the viewing public and the operating team. There is a ruling gradient of 1 in 100, resulting in most proprietary locomotives being able to pull 8 to 9 coaches or 30 to 40 wagons anywhere on the layout. The stock used represents all that is best in N-gauge today, with a wide selection of ready-to-run, kit and scratchbook items suitable for the period and location. B&B delayed action couplings are used on all rakes of stock and locomotives, but within rakes, standard repeater couplings are used. Wagons are normally in rakes of 5 to 8 shunting.
Size, wasn't it? Yeah, what do you mean?
We now get a brief glimpse of New Dalby in Engage, which is set between the period of 2010 to 2022 on the Midland region. It's operated by Andrew Porter and friends. The idea of this layout is a replacement for the Rail Technical Centre at Derby, due to it being on prime land and the railway selling it off and finding somewhere new for their testing centre.
Oh yes, I knew that. It was just stopping where the magnet.
We return to the western region with St John's in OO gauge, which is set between 1931 or 1960. In this case, as can be seen by the BR crest, it's 1960. The operating team is Paul Warden and friends. St John's is a representation of a small town based on the South Devon coast and was built around a small harbour prior to the arrival of the Great Western Railway. This OO gauge layout features typical Devon rolling hills and a sandy beach with a small fishing harbour, making it a popular holiday destination during the golden years of rail travel. The layout was built with the viewer in mind and features many scenes and items to look for rather than an exhibit to look at while listening to the sounds of rolling waves and seagulls, giving a realistic seaside experience. The operation of the layout can be either in the summer of 1931 or 1960, with Great Western steam and later BR diesels alongside steam, all fitted with prototypical sound which is used to enhance the viewing experience. Over the viewing time, you can expect to see local passenger workings, various freight movements, mixed parcels and milk traffic. Sections of Holiday Express trains working through from London also arrive at St John's Station.
What is it? It's that high and the water
We move over to the southern region and White Meadow Quarry. This N-gauge layout is set in the 1960s. Its operating team is Ray Taylor and Anne Bass. Set around 1966, White Meadow Quarry is an N-gauge model railway layout set in a fixed location somewhere in the south of England. Located a little way outside the village of White Meadow, the railway serves a chalk quarry as well as the village. At the time of the layout, the chalk quarry is coming to the end of its life and is very run down, almost derelict. A mainline station sees fairly regular rail traffic, while the branch line brings materials into and out of the chalk quarry as needed. The quarry workers keep the local pub going, although today it's doing a roaring trade because there's a bus rally taking place on the common near the station. Sticking with N-gauge, we move to Lockwood Street. This layout is set between 1955 to 1965 on the eastern region and is operated by the Hull Miniature Railway Society. This is their latest project, and it is an urban secondary terminus station inspired by the former Hull and Barnsley Railway's terminus at Cannon Street in Hull. The idea came from a wish to do something a bit different to any of the other previous layouts and the desire to be based on a local location. The layout, which is set between 1955 to 65 transition area, has, unlike the real Cannon Street, assumed some local passenger services continued to use the station alongside the main traffics of parcels, perishables and coal.
The naughty giraffe, lions having
We come to 009 gauge now and Lemenis Light Railway. Set in the 1950s, this industrial lab is operated by Andy Hopper and friends.
2 children talking to horses.
This is Andy's first real foray into 009 modelling, and it has been a pretty steep learning curve for him.
Blue telephone box.
Having grandchildren who like model railways, it was decided that modelling something which is completely fictionless would allow Andy to bring in a number of family interests and connections from his past and present, which he hopes the family visitor will find interesting. The railway was built by the Colonel Stevens in about 1900 to connect Lemenis to the main line railway, which stubbornly refused to come anywhere near this small isolated market town. Improbably, the railway managed to keep going through the Depression, mainly because the local roads were so narrow and winding. It was supported by traffic to and from the ever larger local brewery, which became famous for its Hooper's ales and a number of other local industries. The opening of a zoo and wildlife park next to the station worked wonders for passenger traffic, especially as things got back to normal after the Second World War. A ride on the little train to the zoo became very popular, so, according to his story, the railway is still managing to keep its head above the financial waters.
Yeah, okay.
Comes out.
We were just about to leave the exhibition, and we almost missed this layout. It was hiding in the corner. Don't know how it got past us. Making Tracks 1, 2 and 3. Brought to you by Pete Waterman and the Rail Nuts. Don't know if that's a band. It's something to do with the music industry. Anyway, rather than tell you about it, because I'm sure you all know about it, I'm just going to let you watch the trains. Pete Waterman and the Rail Nuts' fantastic Making Tracks 1, 2 and 3. And the representation of the West Coast Main Line and Milton Keynes Station.
Pretty long.
Got a tree there, we've got here. The red and orange ones do there. Containers off. Red and orange. This one. Go for the back. Red and orange. Wait for that. I think that's...
And then northwest and then northwest.
See them?
Have you received it?
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, then please click the like button. If you want to see more, then click the subscribe button. If you don't want to do any of that, then just don't click anything, not even the dislike button. That's just mean. And hopefully I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.